the country is gone. You'll be slaves in your country or foreign elements, and we can't allow that. So in our case, unlike electricity, which can be recovered, power and sovereignty cannot be recovered. Once it's gone, and you'll be a slave. So I will now hand over to the CEO.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Deputy Ministers, and Honorable members of the committee. I'll be presenting and I'll share the presentation. And I'll be joining my colleague, Ms. Thandeka, to present the financials as related to the corporate plan. Thank you, Chair.
CEO, we request your camera for members to see, then you can switch it off so that we know we are talking to our CEO. I just hear the voice, I've not seen the face. So I don't want them to make arrangement here.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. My colleagues are here with me, Chair, in the boardroom.
Okay, no problem. So long as we have seen you, you can switch off. I just wanted the committee to know that we are not just paying salaries. There are human beings behind those salaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I confirm, Chair, that the presentation is shared?
Not yet. Amanda,
okay. Looks like.
Did we assist with sharing? Did you give it to our people? To the Secretariat. Amanda, please help with sharing there.
Okay, Chair.
Is it visible now, Chair?
Yes, it's visible. You can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair, I want to manage the time. I'll try and go straight to the key issues that talk to the corporate plan of Denel and how will Denel best support Defence Force to have the equipment that Defence Force requires. Chair, if you allow me, I will introduce the presentation quickly. Denel, Chair and honorable members, it's on track on the recovery journey. We are appointing competent people, both in leadership and technical. We are concluding contracts internationally. That will ensure that that top line goes up, and that will be followed by execution of these programs as we execute them. Despite the liquidity challenges, our financials are improving, and our relationships with the banks are really improving. We have 2 banks on board as we speak. We are negotiating. We are in discussions with the other 2 banks as we speak. So that environment is improving. I think it's because of the realization that the recovery journey of Denel is happening. So, because banks want to get into business where they make money and where they are not exposed to too much risk. So I think the banks realize that the relationship and the partnership with Denel will be good for both parties. Operations are improving, Chair and honorable members. Contracts that had been on hold have been reactivated, and namely the KAMAS and the air-to-air missile program is going ahead, and the Hoofest program is going ahead.
Chair, sorry. Chair, my apologies for interrupting, but can we please be taken through this presentation and also be shown the relevant slides where we are, because we seem to be just on the presentation overview, while the presentation is now already moving to some of the details of the presentation. Can the slideshow please keep up with what is being presented to us? Thank you.
Okay, CEO, I'm sure you have.
Thank you. Yes, Chair. I was just putting a quick introduction of my presentation. I haven't started with the slides. I'll go to the slides now. I'm just concluding, Chair, if you allow me to, with the introduction, the final points. And Chair, the support to SNDF is the focus point for us. So we are working closely with SNDF. We are in discussions on a weekly basis to ensure that we support SNDF. And the strengthening of internal controls, we are implementing the measures to ensure that our internal controls are improved so that we can be a better, we can be good for the country. And lastly, Chair, the working relationship between Denel, AMSCO and SNDF has drastically improved. We have monthly meetings with AMSCO, and we have monthly meetings with AMSCO and the DOD and SNDF, where we discuss how best can we support the SNDF. If I can move, Chair, on the presentation. The overview, Chair, is of the presentation. I'm not going to go through it. I'll go straight to the presentation itself. Thank you. I'll go past the, and I want to talk about the Denel's mandate. That's that of developing and manufacturing products and solutions for the Defence Force, so that Defence Force can better protect and safeguard South Africa. I know that Denel has gone through difficult times, but as I said, we are on the recovery journey, and we are going to serve this mandate that we are trusted with. Thank you. Chair, the structure of Denel is a structure where we are business or business dependent. For Denel to succeed and deliver to the SNDF, we have to ensure that all our divisions are working well. We have Denel Dynamics, which is the missiles business. We have Landward, which is the artillery, infantry business, and the vehicles business, the Landward. And we have the integrated systems business. And all these three businesses are sovereign to state. And for Denel, is for Denel to ensure that the capabilities within these divisions are managed responsibly, so that the country can continue to have sovereign capabilities. And the sovereign capabilities will have to be within the management and control of state. Because not having sovereign capabilities in state is a risk to the security of the country. And then we have the fourth division, which is aerospace, where we do MRO of the fixed wing and rotary wing platforms, mostly for the Air Force. And we have the PMP part of Landward that we decided last financial year that as of 1st of April, we're going to ring-fence it and run it as a project, because that operation was not working at all. It was neglected in terms of maintenance, and the clients had placed orders 3 years ago and they were not getting their ammunition out. So we switched on the project 1st of April. We are implementing the turnaround of PMP. And we have appointed people, the operations have started, we have bought material, we have funded this project. And the plan is that this project will take 3 years. But we're working towards a much shorter period to ensure that when SNDF needs ammunition, it's available. When SAPS needs ammunition, it's available. So we also have what we call associate businesses that is businesses where Denel owns minority shares. We have RDM, Rheinmetall Denel Munitions, where Denel owns 49% and Rheinmetall Germany owns 51%. This entity is a very successful entity. They have orders up to the sixth year from now, and they're highly profitable as we speak. And they have started paying dividends. This last financial year, they paid dividends, and we are looking forward to the doubling of the dividends this year. And we have Hensoldt SA, which is Denel owns 30%, and Hensoldt Germany owns 70%. This entity is struggling operationally, and we are in discussion with Hensoldt in terms of the future relationship with Hensoldt. And we have the Barrick Dynamics business located in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. We own 49% of that business, and Edge Group owns 51%. This as well, we are discussing our future, whether we are still creating value in the interest of Denel in this relationship or not. So we are really looking at that as we speak. Thank you. Chair, I want to talk to what ensures that Denel is alive. Denel can only be successful if we receive orders from local, from Defence Force, SAPS, and international customers. But in the past years, we have realized that our budget coming from DoD is under tremendous pressure. And that manifests itself in Denel not being able to get contracts. And when we look at what happens globally due to the geopolitics and the uncertainty on security, world security, countries are upping the spend on defense so that they can be better protected. So we're hoping that going forward, we will realize the increase in the budget allocation for DoD so that we can support SNDF better. And for us, for Denel, it's not just short term to receive a contract to manufacture solutions or products for SNDF. It's more a long term because in defense, you invest now on a product that you are going to get in the future. And we have to invest in R&D, we have to invest in technologies now so that we have solutions in the future. Because in the future, when the future arrives, if we don't have those solutions, it will be too late. And we'll have to go to the international markets and buy whatever is available. And normally when you buy from international markets, you don't get the best. Countries don't give you the best, they give you international products. That is the second tier of their product. So we have to ensure that we get their funding coming from DoD so that we can invest in R&D. And then can be really a successful business and support the Defence Force much better. And Chair, members, Denel went through a difficult time. I thought I should just show this, that we're coming from a difficult time. As we looked at in financial year 2016-17, Denel started moving in the wrong direction until it hit rock bottom in 21-22 financial year. We have learned from those difficult times, and the only direction we are taking is going upwards. And Denel, when it was successful, it's because Denel had stable board of directors and executive management. Denel was profitable, being able to invest in technologies, being able to invest in people. And Denel had talent. We had top-end engineers, and we had prototypes that we were developing in all products. We're leading. We're in the top 5 in terms of missile technology in the world. And we're a symbol of good governance. and strong controls. And for us to get back to where we want to be, we strongly believe that we have to go back to these 4 elements to ensure that there's stability, to ensure that the entity is profitable, and we have top-end technical people, and we ensure that there's governance and we strengthen our controls. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'll quickly talk about the turnaround of Denel. We had developed a turnaround plan at the back of the recap, and it was meant for 3 years, but we are not going to throw it away because the plan is good plan for the recovery of Denel. We are continuing with some of the elements of Denel. Liquidity was a big problem and it hasn't gone away. We are much better than where we were then, but we still have some challenges. But we are working hard to ensure that we improve the liquidity of the business because we cannot execute the programs. We cannot manage the resources if we have liquidity challenges. We still have legacy debt that we are sorting out, we are resolving. And we take money from operations to address some of the legacy debt, which is a problem because it puts pressure on the operations themselves. So on this item of liquidity, we are ensuring that those businesses of Denel that are struggling, Denel Landward and Denel Dynamics, we have to ensure that by end of this financial year, we are moving them towards profitability. That means we have to ensure that all their programs are executed timelessly and we manage the cost down, especially the operating expenses. The recovery of PMP is key to us, and getting new contracts is key to us to ensure that we get that liquidity in. And collection of debtors, we have a lot of people that owe Denel. If we collect all the money that is owed to Denel, we'll be able to even invest in some of the technologies that we want to work on. We are continuing the discussions with the banks, as I did mention, and we are getting positive feedback coming from the banks, and we're hoping that we are moving in the right direction. Because we need guarantees to execute the contracts. And without the banks, it becomes very difficult to raise guarantees. Even if we have a government guarantee, we need the banks to provide bank guarantees because our customers want bank guarantees. Strategic partnerships, Chair and honorable members, this element we are behind. We haven't moved much on this one, but in the new strategy, the strategy for 26-27 financial year, we have included strategic partnerships that we are looking into. We need strategic partnerships to get PMP to fully be operational. We need strategic partnerships in the vehicle business to modernize our technology. We need strategic partnerships in the space environment. We are going to go big on space, and we are going to need partnerships. And then in terms of internal controls, we are working hard to ensure that we strengthen controls. The internal audit has been established within the company, and we are improving operational effectiveness so that the programs are delivering, and we eliminate the audit findings that AG is communicating to us and has been communicated to us for many years. Thank you. Strategic initiatives, Chair, the turnaround plan had identified the sale of non-core assets and the sale of our shares in Hensoldt and RDM, and to sell some of the. But all these 3 elements were not supported, so Denel couldn't implement this. So what we did is we went back to the drawing board and said, what can we do? how can we still make sure that these assets generate value for us? And we have already started, the properties are generating money. And RDM is giving us dividends. If we had sold it, we're going to have money in the short term, and in the long term, we're going to not be able to get any benefit out of it. And the generation of revenue streams, that we are doing it very well. Our customers are happy that Denel is back. And we are receiving customers on monthly basis, and we are receiving requests from all over the world on a weekly basis. And cost saving is critical. Our focus here, Chair and honorable members, we want to spend the money on the generation of revenue and less on operating expenses. So we have to, we are reducing the operating expenses as we speak to ensure that the company is profitable and cash generating. Thank you. Chair, we have the strategic intent coming from the shareholder. And this is the communication to Denel to say Denel should be delivering on 5 key elements. Firstly, for us, for Denel, be relevant to the country, it must support DoD with sovereign and strategic capabilities, so that Defence Force has got the capabilities that Defence Force requires. And Denel should drive operational excellence, so that Denel doesn't go to the fiscus and ask for money. Denel must be able to fund its own operations. And the third element is growing the order book and ensuring that because the balance sheet of Denel is weak, we have strategic partnerships to help us grow that top line. Because with the growing top line, we'll be able to fund the R&D, develop the skills that we want. Most of the employees will be retiring, so we need young people, and young people, for them to come through, we need to be able to contribute in their training, and when they come through, they want modern technologies, new technologies. And the fourth element is for us to ensure that we have a strong and credible internal controls. We're working very hard on this element, and we are seeing the fruits of it. And compliance with policies and regulations. This is not an option for us, because for us to be in this business, we have to be compliant at all times. And Chair, in terms of strategic focus, I'll just talk through the objectives that are on our radar on a daily basis. It's for us to grow the revenue. That's the only way we can grow this business. And we have to make sure that we are profitable so that we can fund the R&D and the skills development and the social contributions that we are expected to do and achieve diversity through the implementation of the EE plan. If we don't make money, we are unable to meet our EE plan. And for us to improve the BBBE level, that collapsed when Denel was going through a difficult time. We can't, as a state-owned company, be having the current level that we have. We have to improve that and improve overall customer satisfaction. Our customers should be proud and be happy that they are working with Denel. Thank you. Chair and honorable members, Denel has got lots of products in the SNDF. And for us, what's important is we have to continue this legacy to ensure that our SNDF is provided with modern, competitive products for Defence Force to be able to protect the country. We are doing maintenance on the products, but we have to look forward and say, let's look forward, because the landscape of war has changed. We have to invest in new technologies so that our Defence Force is equipped properly. For example, we need range in missiles. and we need agility in missiles. So we have to invest in the missiles that are going to give us range, that are going to give us agility, that are going to give us ability to operate in all weathers. Missiles shouldn't be restricted by weather. Thank you. And in terms of our market focus, if we don't work on this element, Chair and honorable members, Denel will not be able to recover. So we have these elements on our market focus that help us to keep focused to beyond the borders of the country. How do we compete in the marketplace so that 60% that we want to get from the international market to augment the work that we are getting from SNDF and SAPS, how do we become competitive? And strategic partnerships are key. It doesn't have to be equity. Strategic partnerships, we are looking at technology partnerships, we are looking at product partnerships, and we are looking at partnerships on market penetration. And then the diversification of the market as well. We have to ensure that we de-risk the company to find ourselves and spread our markets across the world. And we are working with the CSR closely to be able to respond to requirements in the market. But in most cases, most of our customers, they're asking for two things. One is they don't want to buy a product as it is. They want to make changes to that product. So CSR is a good partner for us. And most of the customers are saying they need localization. If they place an order for 2 billion rand, they want an element of localization. And all our customers are asking for that. So we have to be able to respond to that. And the geopolitical landscape for us is for us to understand the geopolitics and understand that we have to align with the country in terms of where we're going, where our markets are, so that because you can have a customer today that can be an enemy of the country tomorrow. And we have to ensure that at all times we align to the country foreign policy. And country-specific analysis, we do that all the time to ensure that we work as a team to penetrate these markets and use the intelligence that we gather to ensure that we penetrate the markets. And the technology roadmaps, that is critical for us because as I did mention earlier, that most of our customers don't want the standard products. They want us to strengthen what we have to give them competitive products. And market recovery, we lost markets, but we are recovering our markets, all our customers, without exception. They're already wanting to conclude deals with us. Some have already concluded contracts with us, and the others are already, and every month we receive customers from outside the country, people coming over to have discussions with Denel. So we are happy about this progress we are making. And product diversification, through R&D, we should be able to diversify our product portfolio so that we can respond to the customer needs and the changing landscape in defense and in war. Because the product that used to compete well in the past don't necessarily compete well now. So we have to be able to respond to that through product diversification. Thank you. And Chair and honorable members, we have identified, we are playing in markets in the continent, South America, and in Middle East mostly, a little bit of Europe, but we want to diversify our markets towards Asia, so that we can have presence in that market. And we're already making good progress so that we don't depend on on only the Middle East and the continent so that we can have a diversified market portfolio. Thank you. Okay, we thought we should have this slide that talks to our plan on people. We are working on succession so that the continuity in operations is realized. We currently have about 1,500 people. We have to grow this number back to the 4,000, even more. We have to create jobs. And that will be driven by the performance of the business, the growing revenue, and the demand for products of Denel. And the succession will be bringing in young people and ladies into the business. We can see that on our targets, we have missed our targets in terms of the percentage of ladies in the company. Have to up that, and also in terms of middle management or management, we are behind the target that we had planned to achieve. And we have to make sure that the company is successful for us to be able to attract top-end talent into the business. And also the young people and the ladies. Young people and ladies for us are key because with that, we are going to ensure that there's sustainability of the business. The young people are mobile, and the only way we can make sure that we keep them is to offer them good work and good working environment, and then they will stay. Thank you. We have identified top 10 risks in the company, and we are mitigating all these risks on a daily basis. Funding is one of those in terms of our liquidity. ICT infrastructure, we have already started implementing our ICT strategy to modernize our infrastructure. The Hoofvester contract, it's a big risk for the company. We are happy to announce that now that the program is going ahead, that risk is going to reduce. And the capability to deliver on programs, we are reappointing people. We need top-end engineers and program managers into the business. So we are doing that to mitigate this risk. The internal controls, we are changing the culture. The culture shift program that we are running is changing how we work as a business, failure of which people who are found not to be doing what they're expected to be doing, there's consequence management. And the speed to respond to changing technologies, that means investment in R&D. This is a big challenge for us, and it's a big risk because it requires injection of money. We need resources to be able to turn this around. But with the new business that's coming in, should be able to fund some of the technologies to respond to the changing environment. And some of the risks, we are attending to them. Cyber security is a big problem, not only in Denel, but globally. So we have to be able to develop protected systems in the business and to ensure that our employees understand that any attack that's going to come into Denel will be coming through what the employees do. So employees are the first defenders of cyber attack, and the technology that we're going to implement will be secondary. Because if I click on the link, it clearly means that somebody out there is going to go through that and get into the business. But if we don't, if we are protective of the company, no one from outside will penetrate the business. Thank you. Okay, if I can hand over to my colleague, Ms. Thandeka Sabela, to give us a presentation of the financials. Thank you.
Thank you, CE. Good morning, Chair, honorable members and deputy ministers. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you the corporate plan for Denel for the current financial year. In front of you, you're looking at the profit and loss statement. And just as a background, when we prepared the corporate plan, we understood that Denel is coming from a high base and now sitting at a low base in terms of its order book. But what we were quite clear on is that whatever we put as performance and revenue line, it needed to be backed up by very confirmed or high probability revenues, which would make certainty on the number, which is revenue. And so the numbers of 26 and moving to 2028, we're quite comfortable based on orders that already landed or orders that we are high in probability in terms of attaining. Second to that was obviously the issue of executability of those orders and more importantly, funding in respect of working capital and the business as a whole. We understood the constraints in the fiscus, number one. We also took into account our mandate, which is to continue to support the SANDF. So you will see the revenues in front of you, 60% is local market and 40% is international market. And the increase from 1.9 to 50 to from 1.2 base in 25 to 1.9 billion in FY 2026 is driven within the landward and the aerospace environment. Aerospace supporting the Air Force and landward really in the product support and a small proportion with regards to Hufesta. How do we fund this? We obviously, as I said, understood non-reliance to the fiscus, but then we looked at how we had historically contracted with our contractors. Most of our contractors or contracts, we rely on prepayment, and what we needed to do is improve controls around those prepayments and how they are handled in order to support executability of those contracts. So we've improved those internal controls around that. Prepayments are ring-fenced for the contracts in which they have been received for to allow execution of those contracts and delivery on time to clients. Coupled with that was Denel's flexibility in terms of its fixed costs. Historically, you would have seen in 24, we had R1 billion in fixed costs and prior to that. And so we looked at the value chain of how we've historically done development and manufacturing over to the customer and how the fixed cost was heavily reliant on Denel instead of having a better mix and allowing Denel to respond better on the margins. So we've released some of the controls in the value chain and accepted that we have to rely on industry in order to deliver some of the goods moving forward. That allows us then to improve our cost of sales, thus margins that we're putting forward, and the operating expenditure, which the CE has spoken about, as some of the improvements that we have put forward to show that an operating expenditure revenue percentage will at 2026 sit at 40% and in 2028 sits at 32%, which is fairly okay in respect of the market that we are in. The numbers we are seeing then is that we are making an operating loss in the first 2 years. I would say then in 2027, we're probably breaking even. And then in 2028, you are seeing an operating profit of 29 million. It's quite conservative. As I said, it is based on the order book and pipeline that we're quite certain to. And so there's definitely room for improvement, I think, as we execute in 27 and 28. Just want to highlight, Chair, in terms of the profit and loss before tax, you will see that the budget and the planning years, which is the 155 million loss in 26, 45 million in 27, and a profit in 92 is a slight improvement to the numbers that had been tabled in the table document. We've picked up a discrepancy that we've just corrected to reflect that in the third year of the corporate plan, Denel is planning to break even and in fact show a conservative profit. If we move on then to the next slide, in terms of financial position and what we project, number one, I would like to firstly highlight that we are solvent throughout the corporate planning period. If you look at the total equity line, we are solvent, and that really is coming back from the support that we've received from our shareholder in dealing with the debt. And so moving forward, we are showing both current and non-current liabilities, borrowings line having no reliance in terms of borrowings. Ideally, you do want to have a mix between using your own funds and using funds from industry. We are cognizant of that, but at the same time, we recognize that as Denel, we need to put forward an improved balance sheet in which our investors can rely on. And so we've taken a conservative view whilst we improve that, and we can perhaps review in the next cycle on how we can go back to the market to rely on our investors in terms of funding of the business. Just broadly in terms of our assets, our PPE are increasing at a conservative and line, and that's because really we don't have enough funds in terms of improving our capex, but we've identified areas that are critical, one being the ICT environment that we need to improve our capex on, another being the OTR and the PMP environment in which we need to improve our infrastructure, and we've taken care of that conservatively in the plan. The other that I think the CE has already highlighted is the increase in the investment in associates. We are seeing that through the earnings that improve moving forward. And then critically in terms of our working capital management, we've already highlighted the reliance of Woolworths and what that does into our balance sheet. And we believe as we execute on this contract, and if we exclude that into our numbers, we are showing a 1.24 norm ratio in terms of managing our working capital and our assets and our liabilities. We are working with AMSCO in terms of how we can then improve the prepayments and how we de-risk the balance sheet of Denel in terms of the prepayments, what we've historically received from them for that contract. Lastly, I think in support of the funding of this plan is the non-financial support which we are receiving from the shareholder and National Treasury. As I mentioned, we're receiving prepayments, and those prepayments require guarantees, and we're working quite close with National Treasury and DOD in terms of whilst they may not provide us financial support, but we are able to assist us in terms of providing guarantees in support of the contracts that we have. Moving on to the next slide, really just in terms of the cash flows, you will see in the first year we're quite conservative in the cash that is generated from operations, and that's really coming from the constrained working capital that I've spoken to, and we then see the improvements in the second and third year. In terms of liquidity, it's remaining a key focus for us, how we engage with our suppliers and making sure whilst we keep with the most terms that we can, we extract as much value in the cash that we have on hand. And also there's been quite a concerted effort in terms of collecting the trade receivables that we have on hand. One of the issues, or rather matters that is important for us, as we've said, our revenue is 60% reliant on the SANDF, and therefore our cash flows equally so rely on the payment of the SANDF and regular payments against the invoices that we would have received from them. That is still remaining a key focus, even at the steer call that we have with AMSCO. Moving forward to the next slide, really it's just the commentary that I've already articulated. We see an increase in revenue, as we've said, from the air and the landward system when we compare from the previous year. Moving on to the next slide. Total capex, we have maxed it at 90 million in each of the financial year, funded predominantly by what is remaining of the recap, and in the third year, we're looking to the operations to then fund the capex. The technology roadmap is quite key for us, particularly for the areas where we're looking for development, and it will be refined in the next cycle of the corporate plan.
Thank you, Madam Thandeka. Honorable Chair and honorable members, the next slide is the last slide that I'm going to present. It talks to the shareholder compact. That is the contract between the shareholder and the board that helped us to measure our progress in the implementation of the corporate plan. So we have the key performance areas. Liquidity for us is key, and profitability. Those two, if we make sure that those are achieved, then we'll be able to turn around the business. And we have the strategic initiatives that are key for sustainability of Denel. We don't want to go back to where we come from. We want Denel to move upwards. And we have identified 3 projects for this financial year, which is the OTR, Overberg Test Range. We are investing in that facility. It's a money maker. And we are preparing that facility for satellite launching as we go into space. And the ICT infrastructure, for us, is critical. If we don't have a working infrastructure, there's no way we can get out of the problems we are having in terms of business performance and also in terms of non-compliance. And the other one is the working of PMP. PMP has to work. We have to supply SNDF and SAPS with ammunition. We can't not do that. It's not an option for us. So PMP, we are investing money now to ensure that the current facility, at least it's working. But technology is old. The long-term plan is to invest in modern technologies. So modern technologies, we may need, because we don't have the balance sheet to give us that, we may need partnerships at technology level, at product level, to make sure that we get modern machinery in PMP so that we continue to create jobs. PMP used to employ in excess of 900 people. We are sitting at just over 400. We have to create jobs at PMP. So that plant, we will modernize it and still continue to create jobs. We want to create a separate line that will be purely focused on volumes. It will be automated 24-hour operating plant that will be producing ammunition 24 hours. We have requirements from all over the world. We can't respond because of the constraints in the operations. And then operational excellence, we have to deliver on Who Faced It. We don't have any other way. A G6 upgrade for an export contract, we are working on that. We have to ensure that we deliver on time so that the confidence in the international markets is regained, that Denel is really, it's indeed back. Because our understanding is customers out there, they check how is Denel performing on contracted contracts. Based on that, then they will come on board. And for us, it's critical that we support Air Force, ensure that all aircrafts are serviceable, that are within our contract. We have the Oryx, we have Rafale, and C-130 is coming back to Denel. I'm excited about that. And, we have to ensure, the Chair and honorable members, that employees of Denel are vetted and they manage the information, which is a critical asset of Denel. They manage it responsibly. And compliance with the laws and regulations. Without that, we are out of business. We cannot conduct Denel business unless we are compliant. And business sustainability, we have to ensure that all the legacy wrongs are corrected. So this will be the measures that we put to ensure that the corporate plan we deliver on the corporate plan. Thank you, Chair. I won't present the other slides. The other slides are talking to the divisions, what is happening to recover the divisions. So if you allow me, Chair, I'll end with the presentation and then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good that you end up here. The presentation was going to be very long if you go beyond this point. And already we have spent almost an hour on your presentation. I would not want us to dwell much on further engagement, but rather say it's safe. So far, we would now allow honorable members to ask questions to Denel, taking note of our last discussion with Denel and what they committed in the last time. You can now ask questions, honorable members. I see the hand of Honorable Khotani, Honorable Khotani, and Honorable Niaus, in that order.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I would like to welcome the presentation that we have just received from Daniel. I'll just go straight to the questions, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, on governance and oversight. Okay.
No,
Can
no,
I?
you can proceed.
Okay.
You're protected.
Yes, Honorable Chair. My first question to Daniel: how is accountability structured between the Department of Defense and Daniel following the transfer from the Department of Public Enterprises? What mechanisms are in place to prevent political interference and ensure transparent governance within Daniel's operations? Have there been any consequence management actions taken against executives implicated in prior governance failure or irregular expenditure? How is Daniel addressing the recurring audit funding and weaknesses in internal controls identified by the Auditor General? On financial viability and sustainability, what financial assumptions underpin Daniel's projection to break even by 2027? Are these realistic under current market conditions? Given Daniel's capex requirement on 330 million and the current allocation of only 90 million, what is the impact on operational capability? How will Daniel reduce its dependence on prepayments, such as Woolfsfacer 2.4 billion advance? What progress has been made in collecting outstanding debts, including those owed by AMSCO? Is there a clear plan to restore Daniel's access to credit and guarantees from commercial banks? On strategic relevance and defense readiness, how does Daniel's export strategy, which targets over 60% of revenues from foreign clients, align with South Africa's national security and sovereignty priorities? What measures are in place to ensure Daniel's defense products and technologies do not compromise South Africa's strategic independence? And what is the current status of the Woolfsfacer project and its implications for the SANDF's operational readiness? What funding commitments exist for the proposed sovereign space launch capability at the Overberg test range? On human capital and transformation, Chair, what steps are being taken to retain critical engineering and technical skills within Denel's, particularly in the dynamics and landwards divisions? How is the Denel addressing the aging workforce and skills shortages that threatens long-term sustainability? And what progress has been made in implementing the employment equity plan and improving women's representation in leadership positions? And what measures are in place to build morale among employees following years of instability and restructuring? On risk management and partnership, Honorable Chair, what measures are being implemented to mitigate funding and insurance risk, given commercial banks' reluctance to support the defense industry? And what due diligence process governs Denel's international partnership to prevent corruption, technology leakage, or conflicts of interest? How is Denel addressing the risk associated with aging infrastructure, including fire, explosion, and safety hazards at manufacturing plants? And what progress has been made in implementing ICT infrastructure upgrades to enhance cybersecurity and compliance with national standards? On policy and oversight mechanisms, Chair, what will Parliament monitor the performance and transition of Denel under the Department of Defense through the multidisciplinary project team? What measurable public value has Denel delivered following previous recapitalization funding of 2.38 billion? What assurances can Denel provide that future funding requests will yield tangible improvement in governance, delivery, and sustainability? Yeah, that was my last point, Honorable Chair. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khotani. Will then be followed by Honorable Niaus. Honorable Niaus will be followed by Honorable Shelembe. Honorable Shelembe will be followed by Honorable Qebekulu. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank Denel for the presentation that they have given us. This presentation is high on what Denel hopes to achieve. Unfortunately, it is not that great on giving us the granular detail on how they are going to achieve that. And I'm going to concentrate in the questions and observations that I'm making in order to try and get more of that detailed information, Chair. The first thing I would like to know is what steps has the minister taken, and I hope that the two deputy ministers can also respond here, to ensure Denel's strategic alignment with the Department of Defense and also with Arms Corps. We heard from the presentation that Denel says that there's been a significant improvement.
Honorable Khotani, just hold on.
To mute.
Honorable Khotani, can you mute? Can you mute? Okay, you can proceed, Honorable Niaus.
Okay, Chair, I presume she has muted. I was saying that we heard from the presentation of Denel that they say there's been a significant improvement in the coordination between the Department of Defense and also with Armscor and Denel. In detail, I would like to know how that is playing out in terms of what is happening with Project Hoefyster and the final implementation of Project Hoefyster, and also moving over to phase 2 of Project Hoefyster. There's also, Chair, in recent times been a report about border patrol vehicles, and that there is a tender out for those vehicles where Armscor is apparently centrally involved. I would like to know if there's coordination between Denel, Armscor, and of course, the final client, the takeoff, the South African National Defence Force, and specifically the Army. We are picking up that there are already, although these particular orders and the tender has gone out, apparently a preferred bidder in Milko. I don't know if that is correct, but one must raise one's concern on whether this process is actually going through all the right steps, and whether that does indeed reflect this improved coordination that Denel says there is between Armscor, the Department of Defense, and themselves. I also would like to know from the two deputy ministers whether there's been a reorganization within the department to a fully integrated Denel since it became the department's responsibility on the 1st of April. Have there been new staff appointed in the DOD to support Denel? Because what we receive from Denel is a very ambitious plan, but there's a lot of detail not present. And anyhow, ultimately, this is going to depend on how their main client relates to what they intend to do, and that is the South African National Defence Force. Have there been any staff transferred from the DPE to the DOD in terms of capacitating DOD to deal with Denel? And is there a report on the work of the multidisciplinary integrated project? It again relates to the question that I've just asked. Chair, we have been faced with quite an embarrassing situation when Denel, the previous time, appeared before us, because they were not able to provide us with their financial statements. And this has impacted on the capability of this portfolio committee on defense and military veterans to be able to play our oversight role. So I would like to know, what is the status of the tabling of this annual report now? And what measures has Denel put in place to ensure the timely submission in future of financial statements for auditing, including also the corporate plan and annual performance reports and the shareholder compact that we obviously need to know all and full detail about in going forward? Chair, my impression is that the internal audit capacity and the audit committee of Denel is not well capacitated. Has that been addressed? And if not, what steps are being taken in the short term in order to achieve this? What has the executive authority done to address, specifically also in terms of consequence management, the delays that I've just referred to in terms of the financial reports, which, as I've said, seriously hindered our oversight capability as the portfolio committee? Chair, then I want to turn to something which has not received much detail in this presentation by Denel, and this is the SIU and systemic issues and irregularities that they reported. They reported to a general non-adherence to the PFMA. And again, when we received the report from the Auditor General, there were similar concerns that were expressed, but of course they couldn't go into detail because we didn't have the financial reports. Chair, the members of the Accounting Authority failed in their fiduciary duties to properly manage the financial affairs of this institution. And therefore, they contributed to serious governance failures. There's been financial misstatements. Funds have been committed to projects that are kept in general business accounts that is used for daily business activities. We have received the very serious concern that although Denel was given 2.4 billion rand for repositioning itself for the turnaround program, but sadly we had to hear that most of that money was utilized to pay off legacy debts and salaries, which it was not allocated for. How is Denel going to make sure that this kind of thing does not happen in the future? Denel failed to include restraint of trade in some employment contracts, and they also failed to enforce the clause when it was applicable, which contributed to a loss of talent and skill to the UAE and Saudi Arabia. And in this context, we also know how IT failures on the side of Denel meant that very important intellectual property was lost to the UAE. Denel must go into more detail than what they have presented to us today in order to explain to us what they are actually doing in order to address these particular issues. Chair, then I want to go, and this is the last number of points that I'm going to make, to the issue of finances, because this is the crux of the matter. And Denel tells us that they are improving their situation. They tell us that they've got increased interest from 2 banks, but we also know at the same time that Fitch still continue to rate Denel at level C, which is the highest level of default risk. So it will be very good if we could get some more information about this apparent commitment from financial institutions. We were told that there were 2 banks that have committed themselves to provide capital to Denel. Denel projects a consistent growth in revenue from 1.27 billion in 2025 to 3 billion in 2028. And I think this is a very optimistic growth of 20% compound annual growth rate. This suggests, Chair, that Denel expects a steady increase in demand for its products, which I'm not sure we can entirely be certain of, specifically when we also look at what is happening with Denel's main client, which is the Department of Defense. I have a couple of questions in this context. There is the issue of Rooivalk, and I understand that Denel is working on improving the capability and again making Rooivalk fully capacitated. Apparently, there is going to be a use of Rooivalk for the G20 summit, for air policing. But yet, they still don't have any working cannons or missiles. Can they also help us a bit more about the apparent interest but no purchasing by the SANDF on ground-based air defense. I believe this is known as Project Outcome. Then I want to go to slide 16, where they gave us a breakdown on the SA Army, on the SA Air Force, and the SA Navy. They mention, under the Army, they mention the Badger, but there is still no such in service. With regards to Mokopa, under the Air Force, again, the South African Air Force hasn't bought any of these missiles. And I would like to know if there's any clarity on whether such purchases will take place. We've also heard a reference to long-range strike missiles. I've never heard of it. I would like to get more detail to understand whether this is just a good idea or whether there are clear planning already in place. So here we are, Chair. Denel assumes that gross profits margins will increase substantially by 2028. They say that they expect the gross profit margin to be 27% compared to the 11% that we see now in 2025. Achieving a 16% increase in gross profit margin over the next 3 years is indeed, Chair, a very significant leap. And I would like to raise my concern on whether this is realistic, especially given the current financial inefficiencies that continue to persist in Denel. Because, Chair, increasing the gross margin would require substantial improvements in cost of sales and also in terms of operational efficiency, which is very difficult to achieve.
As we summarize,
Without further, I'll summarize, Chair, and one more point to make, which is very difficult to achieve without further investment in technology, in supply chain optimization, and in workforce productivity. And here's my last point. Denel assumes that finance costs, primarily driven by interest on debt, will decrease over the next few years. And they say that it will decrease from 391 million in 2026 to 355 million in 2028. I've got a concern about this. Given Denel's current debt profile and its very limited liquidity, I've already referred to its rating as level C. This reduction in finance costs is going to be very difficult to achieve. And the debt servicing costs will often rise with increasing borrowings and interest rates. What I see, Chair, and this is the challenge that Denel will have to face, and they will have to do it very closely with the shareholder. And that's why I asked at the beginning the questions about capacitation within the Department of Defense to support Denel. Denel would need to renegotiate and structure its debt to reduce finance costs. And this is not always feasible without external assistance or significant financial support. And sadly, part of that financial support that Denel had received in the past through that 2.4 billion that they've received from government for the turnabout had been utilized in a manner that removed it from that capacity and simply dealt with the issue of legacy debt and of cost of employment. So, Chair, these are the concerns that I have. Denel has a critical role to play in our country. The Minister is correct in her introduction to say so. But on the basis of this presentation and on the basis of the concerns that I've raised here, I still believe that unfortunately this presentation has not provided us with clarity, and therefore the jury is still out on whether Denel is on the road of recovery and will be able to achieve the very lofty objectives that have been presented to us by the management of Denel here this morning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shelembe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, anyway, we are discussing, the very, very important, issues today. And as I indicated earlier, that it was very going to be, advantageous for us to have the minister amongst us, but unfortunately, she could not, attend, and the deputies maybe are here to assist. My concern is that, well, sometimes the deputy ministers, as they do not sit, in the executive, we sometimes do not get, much that we need as a portfolio committee. Well, also, Chair, knowing that, the president of the country is the commander of the South African National Defence Force, and I'm not sure if, he's fully aware of the status this department is faced with, because if he's aware, I think he should have, considered that, taking the minister away from that department time and again is compromising that department to execute, its function. Chair, I cannot, dwell much on that, but it is important that maybe in future we must look, to the attendance register, that how many times has the minister has not been able to attend the meeting, so that, if the case is it's more than necessary, then the matter be raised with the president to say, it's difficult that time and again the president is taking the minister away from us. We need the minister to help us. Chair, we know that, Denel, is a national security asset with the primary purpose of designing, developing, manufacturing, and supporting defense material. And we all know, in the meantime, or currently, the Denel cannot afford, to meet that primary purpose. Now, if you go to, SN Defense, you go to different, entities, sections, you will find that, SNDF is struggling, to execute its mandate because of lack of prime mission equipment, whereas, Denel is there to ensure that, SNDF, is supplied with, enough, defense material. Now, the question that I have, when can we see Denel being able to meet this primary purpose as outlined, that their primary purpose is designing, developing, manufacturing, and supporting the defense material? When are we going to see that? When are they earmarking to see themselves being able to meet that requirement? And if maybe I can get an answer on that, I'll appreciate, because that's concerning that it can't be something that can't be delayed more than now, because definitely what we have observed, on our oversight, we saw the clear picture that, our SNDF is completely not ready, to do its mandate of defending the country. The second, what I've noted that, I think our House has highlighted on that one, that anyway, if Denel has failed, to meet the deadline to submit its financial statement and annual report, this is, a concern that one must look at, that now, how do you convince the National Treasury, to give more money to the Denel once, they are still struggling to comply with their requirement as requested by the AG, and that is, worrying. Looking at that, for them being receiving that repeated disclaimer or opinions on many times, it's something that the NEL must make sure that they resolve or they correct it so that they can get more funds from the National Treasury and get a good working environment with the banks. So my question would be, anyway, I might be asking this question to the wrong people because the executive, authority should have done something to address, these delays in submitting the annual report and financial statement. Now, I don't know now who I'm going to ask now to say, has there been anything done to address that problem of delays in submitting? We may get, a good, presentation or report from, the officials, but I think, the executive authority should come in and tell us exactly if, anything has been done to address the delays. That makes it difficult even for us as the portfolio committee to do, oversight committee to do our role. Chair, I think another one that I looked at is that we remember all that 2024 November, I know Auditor General of South Africa made a recommendation for Denel, that the Department of Defense and National Treasury must monitor the progress made on implementation of the Denel turnaround strategy. We understand the report that is presented here, but hearing from the department that what is being presented here by Denel, they have also witnessed that it's good to see it. And also that will lead us to having a clear turnaround strategy by Denel. I'm not sure if anyone from the ministers will be able to tell me that those recommendations, they are happy that there is a progress as requested by the Auditor General. Chair, let me not, I think some of the questions been asked, so it won't make sense for me to repeat what has been asked. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi Abekulu.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I would like as well to join other members of the committee to welcome the report by Denel. Myself, Chairperson, I have a challenge of constructing questions at most. But all I wanted just to make my comment on, Chair, is that Denel has been receiving a disclaimer audit opinions on its financial statements. I wonder then, Chair, if one would jump into a conclusion to say there is no good intention of members of the board as well as the highest office bearers in Denel to make sure that actually they sort of bring change in managing the affairs and the funds of the entity. Chair, since the Department of Defense Denel was the arrangement that Defense could take over the reins from the DPE, where actually Denel was falling under before. That's where then one would say things started showing a negative approach. Chair, due to the entity's mismanagement of funds, Denel has started losing the employees who could not get their salaries in time. As a result, some then left Denel and went for greener pastures in other countries, in the Middle East, if I could, just because the way the funds were managed when we're not getting rewards on all what they were doing. So mine just says not a question, but I just wanted just to comment. You know, there's an issue of the state capture, which started showing up its head when Daniel started appearing on the newspapers about the challenge that they have. It was a state capture. Then they came up with another of the COVID-19. If one looks at all those, Chair, not all companies suffered like Daniel has suffered with regards to this. Some of the companies have sort of now gathered their strength in dealing with issues and sorting out the challenges that were faced by the state capture as well as the COVID-19. So my chairperson was just to say that as one is very, very steady in following up what is happening in the defense industry, it shows for me that we will always listen to the good wills, if I could say, or wishes, if I could say, from the Daniel administration. They'll give us all the good that they've just delivered as a presentation, but when it comes to tangible things, one would have to wait and see whether we will ever be in a position to see that move towards a well-managed entity, Chair. Mine was just to raise my concern because, you know, at times I struggle to formulate questions on issues where the presentation are coming forward. I'm not that inquisitive person to structure a question, but I always prefer to just to point out my views on what I'm seeing and experiencing on the developments in whatever field that I happen to look closer to. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. Can we get Honorable Mutambi?
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to the two deputy ministers, colleagues, and also the CEO and the management team from Denel. Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. I just want to get some clarity-seeking questions, Chair. I will start with regard to the turnaround strategy, wherein the CEO reported that the sale of non-core assets couldn't proceed. And I understand that it didn't proceed because the department blocked that. Then the question is that what had warranted them to do that, and then why was this blocked? I think it will be very important for us to understand the background of this matter and why it made the department not to support this. And then in doing so, I want them to answer the question as to whether were they not also selling the sovereignty of the assets. That's the issue that I want to also understand. And then they are reporting them having strategic equity partners and strategic partners. And then I'm seated here where I am to say I'm going to go challenges to say if they have all these partners, like in Rheinmetall, they own 51% stake and sold 30%. And then there are other partners like your Pioneer Landward System, Pamudzi Group, and the one in UAE that they've reported. But they only reported the three in terms of their structure there. These other two, Pioneer Landward System, Pamudzi Group, are they no longer their strategic partners? And then I just want to also understand, because if then in terms of the financials, the equity derived from this, the shareholding of these companies, how is it accounted for here? Because it's only end when you read their documents on them telling us that they've got equity partners, strategic partners, but as to how do they contribute to the sustainability, maybe they must tell us about their shareholding and partnership agreement to say, what do they then get out of this? Or it's just some, I need clarity to that, because also in these things of we need some transparency when you deal with these issues of equity. And then also, I know it's entered for them to have financial stability, but also, you see, like what is happening when I'm looking even I'm not privy to what were the reasons. Maybe the Deputy Minister Olomisa will tell me on the reason of them blocking it, because at the end of the day, when you do that, the future buyout clauses conditions, they always erode the control over your commercial activities. Then you are forced to rely on these foreign companies. And also, when it happens, your long-term autonomy then gets compromised. And then also, once that has happened, that's where you find the situation also, then there is a significant risk, and then you have to depend on this external funding than also making your own sources. So money, that's the issue that, Chair, I want a clarity on first, to say maybe this strategic partnerships and equity things must be fully explained to us. Having said that, Chair, I watched the meeting in January this year of SCOPA. Yeah, and I'm happy the minister was there at that meeting, wherein there was issues that were raised, and then we were told that a governance failure report that relates to Denel was also being prepared. Can the CEO update us on the progress to that effect? And then the other issue that was there was the issue around on the failure of the board to implement the recommendations of the SIU in relation to the disciplinary actions against the officials that were implicated in the wrongdoing. I mean, between now we are in October, there should have been progress. Can the CEO also update on us on how far have they gone to that? I know there's a separate meeting, Chair, that you are preparing where all these issues must be raised, but I think it will be prudent for them to also take us in confidence. How far have they gone in dealing with the issues as raised as raised in that meeting of the SCOPA? I think because once SCOPA has sat and met with them, they've got a responsibility to also report to us on the progress that they've made to that effect. Then, Deputy Minister Olomisa, I want to get clarity from you too, whether you as the members of the executive, you've completed the review of this turnaround strategy. And then, having said that, because I like the issue that I've raised on the sale of non-core assets, that was part of their strategy. It is reported that it couldn't move because you didn't approve it. So, in line with that, also to say that if you look holistically in the entire Denel review, the entire Denel turnaround strategy, what were the key findings and on its feasibility? And then also the issue that and when you were reviewing, definitely there were issues around improvement of the commercial viability, including also the operational affairs of Denel. What were your findings, and what do you think needs to happen to make sure that we have a self-sustainable entity that will be able to deliver? The other issue, the other colleagues, they might have raised the issue of compliance with the financial regulation and the rest. And then Denel has been known for not submitting their annual reports on time. I just even to date, I was told that the annual report for 2024-2025 is not yet presented, tabled in Parliament. Maybe the CEO can take us into confidence to say what is the status on the tabling of that annual report. And then also what measures, because that is non-compliance. And it cannot continue that we always know that Denel is a delinquent, whereas there are mechanisms, there have been board members that are put there to deal with issues of governance and oversight. So we want to know, CEO, as the CEO, to say, what mechanism and measures have you put in place so that this thing of you not submitting financial statements on time for auditing, including the corporate plan and the annual performance report and the shareholder compact going forward? What are you going to do? And then also to check whether you have a fully functional internal audit and the external audit committees, and if they are there, are they actually well capacitated? And then also, Deputy Ministers, I want to also know from you, all of you, as to what have you done to address these delays, which also is also hindering the Parliament's oversight. So those are my issues, Chair, for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Plakis.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. Greetings to the ministers and Daniel. Let me also join Chair in welcoming the presentation. We were on oversight last week, Chair, at Makhando, and there's a lot of aircraft standing there having spare problems. Understanding the budget cuts in defense, I just wanted to check with Denel the issue of you wanting and applying for licensing to maintain and repair in-house. Is it also to deal or to mitigate understanding the dip in the defense budget? And what else are you planning in mitigation on delivering material to defense to SADF on understanding that the budget have been severely cut over the years? So that is one of my questions, Chair. The second one, Chair, is I think is also one of the important ones, is the one of Easter. You are saying you are now back on track with phase one, almost ready to go over to phase two. But my concern remains, Chair, there's no proper timelines. And last time that I checked, there was a technical team that was supposed to be put up between Denel, SADF and AMSCO. That technical team, is it established? Is it working? When are they meeting? Is the progress in that department? And my last question, Sir, is that on all that you are saying, Daniel, we see the presentation, we see the turnaround, we see that you are trying to move to a certain direction. But for me, it's always important, Chair, that when you put this to the test, you must always try to say that we will do this in 6 months, we will do this in 8 months, so that we at least when we engage and meet again, we can be able to say that you've said you are going to do this in 3 months. How far are you with it? And here we have a serious lack of timelines, Chair, and that is important to me. Let them maybe at the time tell us that this we are going to do in 3 months, this we are going to do in 6 months, this we'll do over 5 years. It's not going to be in your term. So that when we measure on what they have put to us on a timeline. So mine is, Chair, I want us to deal with timelines, and there must be timeframes on some of the proposals, Chair. I thank you, Chair. That is all my 3 inputs.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hala.
Thank you, Chair. All protocol observed. I've got only 3 questions. My 3 questions will add to the 33 questions we have asked. My first question, Chair, is how is Denel addressing liquidity constraints to ensure timely execution of high priority contracts? 2, how will Denel ensure new revenue streams align with its mandate to prioritize SANDF requirements? Lastly, Chair, what support is required from AMSCO and Department of Defense to finalize contracts like Hoofeister and Roy Falk? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, we can't hear you. I hope your
Okay,
mic is not muted.
I see the hand of Honorable Khotsane. Is it a follow-up or is it a legacy end? Before I,
Follow-up. It's a follow-up, Honorable Chair.
if you
Thank
can try
you very
to allow them to answer. All right.
Yes, Honorable Chair. Yeah, I've forgotten something that is very much interesting. I would like the DNL to tell us about the project, a 2 billion project hotel. Do they know something about this project, of which now it's delayed for 2 years and it's never finished? They only done 56% of work in that project, but 80% it's paid. And the company, as we speak, it's broke. We understand that the company it's broke. Even the constructors, they don't want to work with that company because it doesn't pay the contractors. As we speak, Honorable Chair, it said the owner of that company has relocated to Portugal with an hope to get EU passport. Now, really, I've never seen in any presentation Denel telling us about this 2 billion project hotel. This 2 billion project hotel, it's like it's a ship that it's being built. Now it's not complete, and the company now it's broke. All these things, and now the owner is reallocated to Portugal. Can Denel tell us something about this project? I submit, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khotsane, and thank you very much to all the members for your questions, probing questions. I allowed both Denel and yourselves to spend more time on questions so that Denel, as the new baby in the department, can get an idea of how we work in terms of our oversight role as the portfolio committee, but also to understand the spirit of what we want. We are just passionate patriots who want to deliver the country and ensure that all its citizens and future generations are safe from possible security threats, terrorism, insurgents, coup d'etat, or any criminality by the gangsters, which can undermine our sovereignty. So we must have that combat readiness to ensure that that is done. And that's the spirit we would expect from Denel, because during the 80th anniversary celebration of China independence or victory from Japan, there was a demonstration of new technology in terms of military industry. Even Denel, as we are talking now, we are talking ready for Second World War. We don't have hydrogen bombs, underground drones with torpedoes. We don't have most of the advanced technology. We're still struggling even to correct our balance sheet for Second World War. not even for Third World War. But it's a matter for discussion in our private session as both institutions. But I think we can do better, even in terms of porous borders, safety, and territorial integrity of our country. But if all of us can understand, here we're not only dealing with civilians, we're dealing with military personnel, and we can't be timid or inept because the country will be taken if we're to reach that stage of life. So I don't think it's necessary. So would allow Daniel to answer maybe until 12:20. And I would start first with the Deputy Minister, Holomisa, to lead maybe for 2-3 minutes, and then hand over to Daniel so that they answer on questions raised by the members. If all questions are not answered, we would expect you to go and expand your corporate plan on other issues that members have raised. I'm not even sure. You remember the last time we fought over the signature of the minister on the corporate plan, that it was not there. I hope this time it's there, because this is a soft copy, it's not a hard copy, we could not see. But it's good that it's a soft copy so that whatever additions you need to make, you make them. And then you can go for printing of the booklet with the signature of the minister, because it's misleading if the minister did not approve the plan as a shareholder. But nevertheless, let me allow Honorable Holomisa to start and then hand over to the CEO. Over to you, retired Major General. Honorable Holomisa. In his absence, can the CEO proceed?
Thank you, Chair.
You proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I will address some of the questions, and to my colleagues, I will come in as well to attend to some of them. I will try and start from the last question. I think it's, for me, it comes easier for me to answer the last question. Project Hotel for the Navy, Denel is not involved in that project at all. We work with the Navy on the supply of the 30 millimeter and then the Mkonto surface to air missile. That's the only interface we have with the Navy. We are not involved in Project Hotel. And then the other question was around support from Armscor on Hoefeste and Rayfalk. We are receiving, since early this year, they're working together, I think since April, actually. Working together with Armscor and DOD Defense Material and SNDF is working well. We are working together on the Hoefeste project. We have a task team that's working on the Hoefeste. It's constituted of Denel, Armscor, Defense Material, SNDF, and CSIR. So we have a task team that's working on the Hoefeste. The conclusion of phase 1 and definition of the redefinition of phase 2. Because technology has moved on, we can't say the Army is going to get the same technology that they had requested in 2010, or from 2007 to 2013. And the funding as well. The funds are not available. How are we going to fund phase 2? So we are working together as a task team to look at what kind of product that will still meet the Army requirement on Hoefeste. Because we still need, the Army still requires the capability. The capability requirement is not gone away. So we are working together to deliver that. And the other question was, how is the SNDF prioritizing as we grow the revenue from Denel side, driving revenue growth? Are we prioritizing SNDF? Our first point of call is to ensure that if we don't have enough capacity, we will dedicate that to SNDF. And only if we have excess capacity, then we'll execute the rest. So priority for us is SNDF, and then later we can focus on the international markets. Maybe I should mention, Chair and members, in terms of support from AMSCO on Hoefvester and Rayfalk. I said Hoefvester, we are working very well. Rayfalk, we have a challenge. We have a contract with AMSCO, but it's not funded from next month, and we are battling to get it funded. So we are meeting with AMSCO this afternoon to try and see whether we can resolve that. The problem with this is then it means we are going to work on risk again, because we have to get the helicopters in the air. And then when we work on risk, Denel is not going to get paid. So like we haven't been paid for the work that was done in 23 October to 2024 March. We haven't received payment for that. So it becomes a risk for Denel that we are going to work on risk and we don't get paid. That's the only problem. But the other areas, we are working very well with AMSCO and the Defence Force. And then the other question was, how are we addressing the liquidity challenge? And there are two elements to it. One is we have to make money from the operations. It means we have to execute programs on time and generate cash out of the programs. The other element is to make sure that we pay off the legacy debt, because the problem, if we don't pay off the legacy debt, we have to take money from the operations. Instead of investing in the company, we take the money and pay debt that was incurred 5 years ago. And that becomes a big problem for us. But we are managing the liquidity so that we are out of this corner we are in. But if we are not sound in terms of cash reserves, it will be difficult to execute most of the work that we have. We are getting contracts. We are expected to raise bank guarantees so that we can get prepayment to execute. Then it becomes a cyclic problem that we have found ourselves in. And then the other question was around the aircrafts at Mercado, at Air Force Base, that the aircrafts are not serviceable. And what can Denel do? We are not involved with the aircrafts at Mercado as we speak now, because the OEMs are doing maintenance on them. But we are currently having work sessions with Air Force to look at what platforms can Denel support beyond Rayfalk, Oryx, and C-130. So hopefully, if we are allowed to work on those, then we'll go and get certified to support these aircrafts so that we can support the Air Force to have the aircrafts in the air. And then the other question was the failure to implement consequence management and what is Denel doing about the findings around the previous executives of Denel. So SIU is working on these matters. They're doing the investigations. NPA is working on these matters, and CIPC also is working on these matters. We know that some of them have already advanced to court. So we are monitoring that as and when SIU, NPA, and CIPC require support from Denel, we provide the support from our side. And then in terms of internal controls, we are working very hard. I think My colleague will come in there, but we have a project that we have started of culture shift to ensure that all employees are doing what they are supposed to be doing. The findings that we are sitting with that have cost us disclaimers for many years is mainly two things. One is the information given to the auditors is not reliable. It's not can be usable. And the other problem is the ICT infrastructure. So if we don't have a working ICT infrastructure, it's very difficult to have reliable information. So we are working on both the people side, that people must do what they're supposed to be doing, and also we are investing in the ICT infrastructure. We have started a project already to get infrastructure in place so that we can have accurate numbers. It's only then that we can get out of this opinion that we are always receiving, that we have been receiving for years, of disclaimer. It's because the auditors cannot trust the information they get. They can't rely on it. Then the other question was around the sale of non-core assets. The non-core assets drive from Denel that they be sold was not supported by DoD on the premise that these are strategic assets for the country. So then we are saying then we have to find other means of, instead of selling these assets, let's make money somewhere else. So the best way for us is to go and get money from operations. Let's work hard to get money from operations. And the other, let's get money from our properties. We have properties. We have to maximize the money we get from our properties. And our the sale of shares in the entities, we have to make sure that these entities are profitable so that we can get dividends back. I think the other question around these entities, whether they are creating value for Denel, maybe I can answer that as well at the same time. RDM is creating value for Denel. The value of that company has increased statistically and is paying dividends, it's creating jobs for South Africans, is doing all the good things that we expect of a South African company. Hensoldt is struggling. They haven't paid dividends. I don't know whether they have ever paid dividends. And we are concerned, so we are engaging with them. We currently have started the process to engage with them to say, is Hensoldt creating value for Denel? Should we still be continuing this relationship? And what options do we have as Denel? And then the Barrish Dynamics in Abu Dhabi, that as well is not creating value for Denel. We are not receiving dividends. And we have to review that relationship as well to say, are we just in that relationship for the sake of it, or we are in that relationship so that we can increase Denel's business? Because the reason for us to have a strategic partnership is for us to increase the value of Denel and create value for Denel. And if it's not saving that, maybe then we have to review that. So we are busy looking into that. And maybe talking to the disclaimer of audit opinions, I talked about the internal controls and ICT infrastructure. The other part that I didn't talk through is in the event of non-compliance, which is what was not happening. In the event of non-compliance, employees of Denel have to take accountability for that. We cannot wish it away, and there has to be consequence management. So we are already busy with all process of consequence management to ensure that everybody is compliant, is doing what they're supposed to do. And no one is immune, from the CEO of Denel all the way down, all of us. And then non-submission of the financial statements and annual reports, then I will ask my colleagues to just talk to that quickly. We are making progress on this. We have recovered a lot on this, but Tanika will give feedback on that. And then the other question was, when will Denel be able to meet its mandate of supporting SNDF? Denel was supporting SNDF very well for many years. And then the collapse of the company exposed SNDF to the situation where equipment is not well maintained. And that's one reason that Denel was not able to do what it's supposed to do. But the other part is the financial constraints on the SNDF side to ensure that Denel is funded on development of technologies for SNDF, because we don't have those contracts anymore. So if we need, if SNDF wants something, it means SNDF buys it from the shell or probably get it from CSIR. So going forward, we're hoping that together with CSIR, we can be funded to develop technologies so that we can have better products for Defence Force. And in terms of maintenance of existing products, that is highly dependent on the funding. If we receive funding, then we'll be able to put capabilities in place to ensure that is done. In the aerospace business, we are making good progress. The platforms of SNDF, we are working on them, and a lot of them now are going into service. And those that are coming in for repairs, we are going to repair them because if there's a contract that's funded, then we'll fix them so that the Air Force has got equipment. And then the other question was around restraint of trade. That's referring to the employees that were working in Denel, mostly around Denel Dynamics and Denel Land or Vehicle Systems. That left the country to go to UAE and KSA. That wasn't in place, but the other problem, which was apart from restraint of trade, which we have to, because in our space, in our environment, when the employees leave, you can't expect that your employees are going to be working for your competition or your enemy, because we're investing in defense technologies in people, and we don't expect that when people leave, they are going to work against you. So we have to have some level of, which is difficult to implement, but we are working on it. And the other problem is when people left, it's because they didn't have anything else. They were not having salaries, they were not paid, they didn't have work to do. So it was a sad situation, and a lot of them left the company. And our drive now is to say those that we want back, we should get them back. And then recap money, I think I'll leave my colleague to talk about us spending money, recap money on legacy debt. And then the SIU reports regarding non-adherence to PFMA and the AGSA reports. Those reports, we are implementing the recommendations as we get the reports. And the internal audit capacity, we have a fully functional internal audit department now. So we do have capacity internally, and it's doing good work, even though it's just over a year that it's been in place, but it's already doing a lot of good work. And then the contract, the APC contract, I think Honorable Member wanted to know about whether Denel is involved in the process. We have a segregation of responsibilities. AMSCO does the acquisition, and they consider Denel like they consider any other company in the country or in the world that will be supplying solutions to the Defence Force through AMSCO. So with the APCs, we participated like every other company by submitting our proposals. We actually submitted 2 proposals, but we had that the preferred supplier is being engaged. So we are not being engaged, so it means it's not us. And we don't know where that process is because it's within the AMSCO process environment. And then the other question was around relationship between AMSCO and Denel. I think we did respond to that to say we are working very well. And the drive is, it must be in the best interest of SNDF. SNDF must get service from us working well together. And then the aging workforce is a big problem for us that a lot of employees are old. Some of them are on contract because they've already retired. Because when Denel was going through a difficult time, a lot of young people left. And when we recruit them back, people want certainty. So we have to show them that there's certainty in the business. This business will not go back to where it comes from. And then we'll get young people in. And then we are working on succession in the areas where there are programs running. We are working on succession so that the young people can come in and take over from the old people. And we spoke about women representation, which is not good. And Denel had done good work in terms of women representation. But when Denel went through a difficult time, all those statistics changed completely. So we are restarting to get back to where we should be and get a diverse group of employees. And then the status of who faced them. I think I did mention in my report that phase one, we are working on it to finalize it. Phase two is going to kick in. We are working with AMSCO's CSIR and SNDF to redefine how phase two is going to look like. And we do have the dates. I remember we asked about the dates by Honorable Member. We do have the dates. We have the plan for who faced them. And the plan is it's going to be presented to the portfolio committee, I think next month. But we have the dates, we have the plan. We can make that available on phase one. What are the dates, exact dates? And phase two, we don't have the dates, but as soon as we conclude the redefining of what it should look like, then we'll be able to say, this is when we start phase two implementation. This is when we are going to complete. Because we don't have leeway to keep postponing this program. And then how is Denel addressing the audit findings? I think Madam Thandeka will take that, and then the guarantees as well, how we manage the guarantees. And then the other question was around, have there been consequence management? Since last year, we are implementing consequence management where it's required, because that's the only way to change the culture to that of high performance and to that of compliance. And then the other question was around I think those are the ones that I have, Chair, and maybe I can hand over to my colleagues to cover the other questions that I haven't able to cover. Madam Thandeka.
Thank you, CE.
Thank you, CO. I gave you 20 minutes. I see you took 30 minutes. But it's
My
not
apologies.
a problem. Can we try to
Chair.
summarize Thandeka? What is Thandeka's position in the company?
I am the Group Financial Manager, Chair.
Oh, the group financial manager. No problem. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief, given the time constraints. I think the one overarching question is around the outstanding annual reports. The 2025 annual reports were submitted in May as per requirement of the PFMA. There has been a delay in terms of concluding the audits due to the legacy audit of the previous years. We are expecting to sit with the AGSA and the board at the end of this month to discuss the audit report. And then thereafter, we'll be in the position to take that through to the executive authority to table. What are we doing to ensure that there's no repeat on delays? I think after the submission of the 2025, we would have caught up in all of the outstanding annual reports. We have capacitated the finance team both at a leadership level and at divisional level in terms of making sure that financial information is provided on time. So we don't anticipate in compiling the financial statement that there will be further delays. In terms of improving the audit opinion, we, as all members are aware, we've been receiving a SLAM audit opinion for a number of years. That is going to take time. In order for you to have a functional internal control environment, you need processes, you need people, and you need adequate systems. Once the internal control environment is set in that area, then you are able to provide credible financial statements. What have we done in terms of moving towards achieving that? At a governance level in the ICT space, to set up the governance structures to make sure that the issues around the ICT audit findings that have been raised, the AG receive the right level of attention at a board level and an executive level, and has been significant traction in that way. Number two, in that area, there's been funding allocated for ICT to improve the infrastructure and the controls around the ICT environment. When the AG does come through, they're able to rely on the information in there. In terms of the internal control environment and the preparation of financial statement, we have gone back to basics. Number one, training employees and understanding the different elements of internal control, making sure that there's adequate review, because when we read the audit report from the AG, it highlights there's been significant deficiency in the reviewing process of financial information. So we set up processes in the basic accounting processes to make sure that there's adequate review. And then lastly, is to document processes so that when the AG comes through, we are able to provide them credible documents supporting the financial information that we are processing. That will take time, Chair. We don't anticipate all of these findings will be addressed within the 26th financial year, but you will see improvement, progressive improvement in the next 18 months or so. Why some of the questions quickly around restoring commercial credit and guarantee by the banks, linked to what I've said around the internal control environment. And when we see that improvement, we expect stakeholders like the banks then to have confidence in the financial statements that we give them and therefore support any credit given to us. What we have done in the interim, as I said, it's a journey. We've brought them in to look at the management accounts that we have, and hence the two banks that have come through and they've seen that they can support us through the journey until such time that we're able to give financial statements. So we are quite confident in that with what we're seeing now and what we've put in place in terms of also having the internal audit giving assurance to the audit committee on the steps that we are taking through is giving some level of confidence in terms of gaining support. I think overall those were the issues without going to other details. Not taking any more time.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mutambi, I see your hand is up. Honorable Mutambi. Honorable Niehaus.
My apologies, Chair. I was struggling to unmute.
Okay.
Chairperson, there are questions that we raised that are specific questions that needed a direct answer, Chairperson. With regard to the equity partners, the question that I asked the CEO, I said since they entered into this partnership shareholding agreements, I wanted to understand what benefits did they derive from it. Like the one that they entered in 2008. Can they give us to say, in terms of the shareholding, this is the dividends that we got? I didn't hear it coming clearly. There was the issue that I raised of the meeting of SCOPA with regard to the consequence management. Safe to hear the general thing that we are acting since last year. One needed specific, maybe I could just ask you straightforward to say, for all those officials that were fingered, then they said they are meeting consequence management. Maybe they can give us the list, the nature of the misconduct, and then if they are saying that they've dealt with this, and then what were the sanctions, what were the outcomes, then it makes sense, that one. Because now, when I raise the issue of the dividend and the stuff, they are thinking that they are going to withdraw. But the presentation itself, it was silent on that. It was not even saying anything until we have to ask. So my plea is that, Chair, can we be given direct answers on the questions that we are asking? That's the issue that I was pleading with you, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. Honorable Niels.
Thank you, Chair. Again, on the issue of getting direct answers, I would love to get a very clear answer. I'm not sure if I perhaps misheard what had been said in terms of it, on when we are going to receive the annual report and also the submission of the financial statements. It can't be an open-ended situation. With regards to Project Hoefyster, I understand that we're going to get a report from Denel on this matter. I really hope that that report will be detailed with detailed timeframes. I'd also like us to get a report from Denel, even if it is in writing, in what is happening with the Badger infantry fighting vehicle. This is again a matter that keeps on appearing in the presentations by Denel, but we don't get any clarity on what is happening. You see, Chair, they talk about good cooperation between themselves, between Armscor and the Department of Defense. But ultimately, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, in the eventual consequence of that cooperation. Then lastly, Chair, I want to warn, there is a problem coming with the patrol vehicles for border patrol tender that is out. I hear what Denel is saying. I'm not entirely sure I agree with how they engage on it. But I want to warn that the engagements that are happening at the moment, also with the preferred bidder, is going to end up once again as a hand grenade exploding in the hands of those who are mishandling this matter. And I hope, Chair, that in the future, when we have to deal with Armscor, because we will soon have Armscor also again presenting to us, that we will raise this matter, because it is going to cause problems and eventually it will take us along the same delayed route where Project Hoefyster eventually ended up with. Lastly, with regards to Rheinmetall Denel Munitions, I have always disagreed with the sale of 51% of the shares of Denel in terms of its munitions manufacturing capacity to Rheinmetall. I hear what the members of Denel are telling us in terms of it being a good business. Yes, it is. In terms of the revenue that they get, yes, I'm glad you get something. But actually, I think the government needs to take this matter a step further. It needs not only to prevent this strategic asset from being sold off, as it seems to have been proposed by the board of Denel at some stage, but it needs to think about actually reclaiming this strategic asset and there buying back the shares that I believe had illegally been sold off, and it compromised the national sovereignty of South Africa. This is an issue which we as a committee must continue to also be seized with because RDM is not just a money spinner. RDM is a strategic asset which we unnecessarily and wrongly, under the management of the then Minister of Defense, Musia Lekota, sold 59% of. It was not just a mistake, it was illegal, and it ought to be turned around. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we just get the Honorable Mutambi, is that a legacy hand or a follow-up? Okay, can we get Danelle to answer? I still have minutes to process. If you can try to be
Honorable,
short so that we release you.
yeah, my hand is up.
Okay, is it a follow-up?
There are 2 questions that I've asked, but they were not answered, Honorable Chair. The
Just as a
first one,
reminder.
yeah, the first one is how is Denel addressing the recurring audit fundings and weaknesses in internal controls identified by the Auditor General? The second one, what progress has been made in collecting outstanding debts, including those owed by AMSCO? They were not answered. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
I'm sure the team has listened. Can you reply to additional points as raised by members before we release you? Over to you,
Thank
CFO,
you.
CEO. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Apologies for not attending some of the questions. Maybe starting with the equity partnerships, whether there are benefits, Denel is getting benefits out of these partnerships. The Hensoldt partnership, Denel is not getting any benefit as we speak now. We are not getting dividends. We're not seeing any benefit. And then the Barich Dynamics or the Towers and Dynamics business in the UAE, Denel is not getting any benefit. There are no dividends coming from that side. RDM, since last year, we started receiving dividends, and this year we are expecting double what they gave to Denel in the form of dividends. And in terms of consequence management, maybe Chair, on this one, can we submit the report to the committee on that structure, on what consequence management is implemented on those executives? We'll submit it by end of next week. If I allow it, will Chair. By end of next week, we'll make it available. And then if I can talk to the who faced a Beja vehicle. The Beja vehicle is it's developed, and it's the asset is here, but we are finalizing the use of the Beja vehicle in terms of development. The use of the Beja vehicle in different variants, whether it's a missile variant, whether it's command and control variant. So there are 5 different variants. So that development part is just being concluded, and that will see the Beja being completed as a who-faced platform for production. And then if I can leave the other 3 questions to my colleague, the exact times when financial report, and then the tracing of internal controls, then debt collection.
Thank you, CE. We have committed to submit the annual report to the Executive Authority by the end of November 2025. So it will be with the Executive Authority then. In terms of addressing the the internal control environment, and the audit findings. We number one, we've implemented a plan that addresses each of the findings. Overall, we have, I think, 600 findings across all of the divisions at Denel. And so we tabled a plan to the audit committee, who have asked the internal audit to look at that plan. In the meantime, we started executing that plan. We started executing it from July this year. The plan does go over 24 months, so we're expecting full implementation or addressing of the AG findings in 24 months' time. This quarter will be the first quarter that we'll be tabling in terms of how far we are with that. As I said, perhaps I summarized too much. There's 3 levels in which we are addressing this, is making sure that people are adequately trained and capacitated to do their work, that they have documented processes on how to do their work, and overarching that is making sure that there's review of the work that they are done and proper sign-offs. And thirdly, that there's an ICT system that has adequate controls in terms of making sure that access to the ICT is monitored, and that the infrastructure is not old and able to support the processing that's done. In those are the 3 elements on how we are addressing these 600 findings. And sorry, fourthly or lastly, is establishment of the loss control committee and function to ensure the prevention and detection of irregular and fruitless wasteful expenditure.
Data's collection.
Data's collection in our data's book, those that are longer than 120 days are sitting at about 200 million. A portion of those are in industry, and we've handed them over. Legal is dealing with them in collection. A portion of those, about 60 million, is with Denel Dynamics, and we're dealing with that through Barrick, because that's outstanding debt that possibly could be a write-off. 58 million of that also is intended to stay long-term, and how the contract is structured at Denel Land Systems with the Malaysia contract. We expect to collect that money in the next 12 months. As the contract is concluded, it was structured in that way that we will collect it in that way. And then on a weekly basis, our treasury function sits with the divisions, looking at how we can collect from from our debtors. And so that is tracked on a weekly basis by the treasury function.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CO, for your submission. Can I check with you? Is there any of the board members of Denel in our meeting now?
No, Chair, we don't have board members in the meeting.
Okay, I'm sure next time when you come, please advise them also to come and listen to what the committee is raising, so that they know what is our expectation and what direction do we want for the institution. Honorable Tambi, I wanted to conclude, but I see your hand.
Yeah, Chair, it's a worrying factor because the board is an accounting authority, and it had to account to Parliament too. And then you find a situation wherein they're not coming to the meeting. And there were questions that we asked the department, the deputy ministers, they are not yet answered to. Because also on this issue of them complying of tabling of the annual report in Parliament, I've heard this is a group finance saying that they've committed to submit by end of November. The deadline was 13th of September. And the Denel cannot have its own rules, especially when you have people who are there, the executives and the board, who must make sure that the law has to be complied with. So But the other questions that we asked were directed to them, the issues around the review of the turnaround strategy and the other things. I hope the Deputy Minister captured what you asked. Would like to get that response from them, Chair.
Okay, it's, Deputy Ministers present.
Yes, Chair and honorable members. The issue of Denel, as you know, it arrived very late in the Department of Defense. And recently they briefed us about the submission of their annual report. They did show us a skeleton, but we were not happy we said they must go back. In particular, the presentation, which will be looking at the question of export and working with the Arms Corps. So those details, we are working them out with them. The question of review of turnaround is an ongoing exercise. I'm sure you heard from the presenters from Denel, who says they still have some shortcomings in certain departments, and they are even tempted to want to bring back some of the people who left, who could not be paid their salaries then, and they looked for other greener pastures elsewhere. So we're monitoring that exercise, and also the recruitment of engineers in South Africa is also an ongoing exercise by Denel. So the whole setup will culminate into a complete turnaround strategy. But for now, I can, in my capacity as a member of the NACC, report that Denel is a lot of companies in the whole world are placing orders with Denel. But of course, we have to check whether some of those countries are not blacklisted by the UN in terms of its policy on this issue of armaments. Yes, Denel personnel, I think this one was asked by Carl, Honorable Carl, in question of reorganization, fully integrating the staff which were under the DPE. Yes, that staff is working at Defense Headquarters, it's been integrated. I've been in meetings with them already and together with the minister. As far as revenue of Denel, I can confirm that is showing good signs because a lot of applications which were made by the manufacturers, that is the military industry in South Africa, those applications have been there for almost delayed for 2 to 3 years. And when we came into office last year, we immediately looked into those applications, and we don't have any backlogs now. So Denel, what we should be looking at in their turnaround strategy, because they are inundated by a number of calls and requests from other countries. We must make sure that they have the capacity. If country X says, Denel, we want A, B, C, D type of equipment, Denel must be ready to deliver. And I'm happy that at least the Department of Treasury and Denel and Defense are working round the clock to make sure that Denel recover and be in a position to say we are back fully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable TM. Let me take this opportunity to thank yourself as the executive authority in the department, Honorable Richard Mkungo also, take this opportunity to the senior management team of Denel and thank the board in absentia for not attending our meeting. I'm sure we will call them one day when the ship start to sink. But because they don't want to plan with us, they don't want to share their plan and direction they want to give to the institution with us, we will play our oversight. Some of us are not money. I am not money. I don't have to be liked by everybody. I can appreciate when other people hate me because I know I'm not money. But soon they will hate some of us when we take them to the dry cleaners for not respecting our meetings. And they should not blame us because unfortunately we are dealing with national security. Once we lapse here, the whole country is gone and we can't allow you because throughout the world, even GDPs to defense are increased from 2% to 5%, others from 3% to 8%. The whole world is preparing for war. It's only us here in this country who are still in a honeymoon. But until we meet again, let's release you and remain with the rest of members of the committee, deal with the minutes so that we can also release you. Thank you very much and wish you all the best. And hope that all the findings, all the reports outstanding, they will be done. The honeymoon is over now for Denel of non-compliance. We have to ensure that we comply. And unfortunately, on the 5th of November, we've called in the SIU, the Hawks, the Board of Inquiry, the Intellectual Property Commission, for them to come and account to the Portfolio Committee. Why have they not acted against malfeasance and corruption and conflict with the law in the Department of Defense? So we don't want you as Denel to be one of our clients one day. Go and do the correct things. Thank you very much. Secretariat. Yeah. Thank you. Can we get the minutes, Amanda, so that we go through them quickly? Thank you very much, honorable members. Those are the minutes for our last meeting. Can I see the date, man? Can you go up? Okay. Honorable members, those are the minutes for our last meeting, which was held on the 7th of October. It was also on the virtual platform where we dealt with the matters of the AG. I'm sure this, all of us who were present would recall. Can we quickly go through the minutes in case there are any corrections? Page number 1, we are done. Can we go to the next page? Any matter on page 2? Can we go to page 3? Anything on page 3? Okay, can we go to page 4? Any matter on page 4? Which is our last page. Honorable Newhouse.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I move that we adopt these minutes. But I note, Chair, that in these minutes we have a reference to the issue of the billions of rands that were given to Denel and that they used it for the wrong purpose and not for the turnaround. I note, Chair, that we did not receive an answer from Denel today on this. And I want to, in general, raise my very serious unhappiness with the way in which our questions were ignored and not answered. So, Chair, I'm abusing now making this proposal that we adopt the minutes to say to you that the questions that had not been answered must be put in writing to Denel, and we need answers. We can't be in a situation where we as a portfolio committee ask serious questions and we don't get answers. We are not being taken seriously. As I'm sitting here, I'm deeply unhappy about the way this meeting went and the manner in which they simply glossed over many of the very important and critical questions that we have raised. So, Chair, I move for adoption of these minutes, noting that in these minutes, we also raised that issue, among other issues, and we were not given answers today by this executive of Denel. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Niels. There's a mover. All the points you have raised are noted. I would appreciate if members can submit to the Secretariat their questions, which they feel very strong that they were not responded to, so that I write a request to Denel to answer them in a written response, so that it does not look like they are spinning, but they are an accountable authority to the executing authority, which we apply both oversight on them. So I would request that we make those submissions to the Secretariat. I will communicate once more with you in the group so that we get them to answer. But we'll wait with bated breath for the report of the AG, because they say it means they've received the report if they say by end of November they would have forwarded their remedial action plan to the executive. So we'll also wait that process to have a bite before the end of the year on how they do their business. Can we get a seconder for the minutes? Can we get a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Honorable Ala seconds. Thank you very much, honorable members. I would not want to waste more of your time, but on behalf of the chairperson and the chairperson of the portfolio committee, wish to thank you for attending our meeting, but also for making a contribution in terms of how best we can ensure territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country. Because so far, with all commissions, with all reports, people are killed every day. There are speculation that our country is about to become a mafia state. We are just in the international news for all the wrong reasons. But hopefully with your work as this portfolio committee, we'll be in a position to can salvage what is left and to respect and honor the sacrifice of those who contributed for this country to be where we are. We cannot allow it that our country is turned into a banana republic under our watch. They will be in trouble. Bazokhala Nyembezi. Thank you very much, including to the support staff. Go well and enjoy the rest of your work and the day. All the best for your families and your other private life. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Aikale.
Bazokhala Nyembezi.
Thank you, Chair.
Bazokhala Nyembezi.
Good. Otherwise, the chairperson will be arrested.
For me, it's treasonous to allow the country to collapse under my watch. We're a war cabinet here. We can't allow that thing to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not mad.
Thank
We
you,
don't.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.